I am the middle child of a family of three siblings that grew up in a small town. My father is a hard-working but emotionally inaccessible man who is looking at retiring soon. My mother is a kowtowing housewife from a traditional conservative and religious background. They raised me and I love them, but they have always considered me a disappointment. My older brother is a golden child. He's 40, married to a completely vapid and quiet woman. They have two boys, both into sports punching, and I think they are complete brats. My brother's job has been mainly selling cars, and he works at a dealership nearby. As an adult, he took on this. I am a mentor to the handicapped attitude around me, like I am mentally deficient and should be grateful to his charity towards me. Most of his advice is just torment in another form, a chance to boast about his cars. Big house trophy wife, two athletic kids, powerboat, ATVs, and all that. I was the kid who cried too much and made excuses. To be fair, I didn't do that well in school. I was picked on and made fun of because I wasn't a huge redneck jock. Like most kids in this town, I have asthma, which my parents don't believe is a real thing. Suffered depression since I can remember, and was never able to run in a straight line, much less toss around a football. My parents were always expressing their frustration, and why I was never as smart or outgoing as my brother. I graduated school with a disappointing 2.5 GPA, used my own money to go to college, but dropped out on the second year. This was always brought up to me in conversation. My little sister was a golden princess. I don't have much to say about her because I moved out of the house when she became a teenager, so I feel like most of my feelings about her come from an adult point of view. She's not a bad person, just a little spoiled. She engages with the way my parents and brother use on me, but it's mostly parroting, I think, to avoid being the low one on the totem pole. She married at 19, had a grand wedding, and has 3 kids of her own. The only one I like is her middle child, and I am sure it's projected sympathy because she reminds me of what it was like to be the middle child, and she's always getting picked on. I was always an antisocial and awkward nerd after I dropped out of college. I worked at a gaming and comic book store, which has been out of business for over 7 years, but my parents kept using it in present tense. While there, I met a fellow geek who was looking to start a tech business, and he and I started a support business that grew and grew. Eventually, he sold the company to a bigger company that had to buy me out. They did so with cash and stock, and then their stock did really well. During this time, I invested or created some extra business interests with a lot of them being lucrative, without getting too much into it. I am currently worth 7 figures of assets and currently work as a CTO of another private startup. But I don't live extravagantly because I don't need to. I drive a 15-year-old Saturn, live in a 2-bedroom house, albeit a nice neighborhood, and all my furniture is secondhand. I'm still single, see a therapist, and I'm busy. Most of the time I have to fight alcoholism, which my parents do not support whatsoever, because they think that it's all in my head like the asthma and depression. My parents expect me to be at dinner every Sunday, but they live at the other end of the state, a 90 to 120-minute drive each way, and that takes up most of my son half of my weekend. But they just assume as a single mental case. As my brother calls me openly, I don't have anything better to do. For 3 hours I had to endure everything from coerced praise of my brother's latest big sale to being told advice on how to live my life, grow up, get married, and be an adult for once. If I skip a dinner, I'll hear about it. Next? Dinner. My parents haven't said I am a moocher per se, but it's implied, which always puzzles me. In fact, I never have a good answer from my therapist as to why I still kept going, because any success I have had is belittled or redefined in some negative light. I haven't exactly shared my life with anyone back home until very recently. Everyone still thought I worked in that gaming store. My life of retail sluggishness was compared to the outgoing and go-better lifestyle of my brother, who had a real job like a grown-up. Games and comics were kid stuff. Anytime I mention technology of any kind, my brother talks over me like I haven't a clue, and I have long since learned to just let him. It's very obvious that he's full of crap, but I feared calling him out because then I'd have to explain how I know that. And then I'd have to explain how what I do. And I guess I was a little afraid they'd be little. That, and it would affect everything. I am a hot mess. Last month, however, it changed because my brother got a hold of some of my personal data from mom and dad. He hired some private investigator company to give them a report on me as a person under the pretense it was an employer background check. My guess is that they were going to have an intervention of some sort. But what they found shocked them. They found my net worth. Where I lived was not exactly a room in some shanty and some other things I wanted to keep private because I deal in security. I got alerts of some unauthorized credit pools, and long story short, I figured out what had happened. I was so angry I hired that same agency to look up their net worth and assets. Needless to say, my brother was living way outside his means, has several arrests for DWI and public drunken conduct over the years. A few domestic disturbance calls a file with CPS, but no current charges. Scheduled IRS back payments and has 3 mortgage loans on his house. His credit is in the crapper. My parents were modest and had very little outside of what I already knew. Boring and actually quite sensible in comparison. I didn't even look up my sister when I came to dinner. I was looking to burn down some bridges. However, what I came into was even more depressing. My parents treated me completely different. They awkwardly fawned over me like I was always the golden child. And this caused my brother to lose his crap halfway through dinner. He tried to compete with me by possibly making up stories about recent commissions and a promotion, and I merely said that these were good things because all of the IRS tax issues, loans, and overextended credit. He denied all of it. I handed him a copy of my report and said it was he who inadvertently suggested that agency when he pulled mine. I have to confess that felt good for a few minutes of my life. My parents scolded him with dramatic shock, but it was obvious they were in on it too. They had to have given him the social security number for one. It was sickening, and I got no joy over the fight. I felt like I couldn't define the disdain I had for my family until this moment. They were all greedy cowards. The next hour, they threw each other under the bus while I just kept quiet when I could. Sometimes they'd turn on me and I'd give nonchalant single-word answers or shrug a lot. My sister, her husband, my brother's wife, and all 5 kids just sat dumbfounded because nothing like this had ever happened before. Usually it's pretty quiet and predictable. My mother starts the conversation. My father grunts a lot. My brother boasts a lot. His wife boasts a lot. My brother and sisters say what they are up to if they get the chance. And here and there will be some jabs about how I should look up to my brother and be a real man. Now, it was my mom and dad and my brother screaming about all this old news like crap that happened to the family 20, 30 years ago, and whose fault it really was. Like everything unraveled in an email. A free-for-all. Every stupid thing I felt about them was validated. And I feel like I should feel happy or have a sense of justice. But frankly, I feel terrible. I don't think I handled it well. I knew they were awful people. What was I hoping to accomplish by dragging my brother's dirty linen out? Now his kids know, for heaven's sake. It ended when my brother red in the face with fury, blamed me for causing all the problems in this family in one huge summary. You should have never been born. You could tell my mom and dad were trying to shush him in a panic, something I've never seen them do before that night. But they never acknowledged how they treated me before. I got up at some point and told them I was tired of them all, and I wasn't coming back to dinner anymore. Then my parents accused me of withholding from them. They said some niece or nephew had some ailment I could have fixed and turned a blind eye. I was never aware of these things, and no one asked me for help. Frankly, I think they were making it all up on the spot. But I didn't say that. We thought you worked at a comic book store? No, I stopped correcting you 10 years ago. It hasn't been in business since 2011, something I mentioned more than once. Oh, how these narcissists rewrote history was beyond appalling and straight to embarrassing. I finally just walked out and drove home. I have mixed feelings. I feel kind of violated that now. They know how much I'm worth, and there is definitely going to be pressure to pay them back because I saw them do this to my brother. I don't want to deal with that. Yes, I am grateful my mom and dad gave me hot food, fresh water, and my own bed to sleep growing up. Yes, we went to amusement parks every summer. And no, I was not beaten by my parents, at least. But I was definitely not their favorite. And I feel like any accomplishments I have had as an adult was done in spite of my upbringing. I grew up with them looking the other way when my brother punched me, kicked me, and verbally abused me. Even if they think verbal A is not a real thing, I feel like I am just done. I know they are my family, but I am just so done with them all. I don't want them to die or anything. I just want to completely cut ties with them and close that chapter in my life. Of course, if I get a girlfriend and want to get married and have kids, how am I going to approach that? Now for the top comments before the update. Go! No contact. The only reason they wanted you around before was so they could belittle you to make themselves feel good. And the only reason they want you around now is to get some of your money. Your family is no reflection of you. Frankly, they all suck. You are not a loser. You actually sound like a pretty neat person who got the wrong end of the deal when it came to family. Block their numbers and go live your life without them. I think you did an outstanding job. Lower your contact with your family as much as you like. You know, they are only after your money, so you don't have to have anything to do with them on anything but your own terms. Keep talking to your therapist to help you move into a life without them dragging you down. Go. No contact? Absolutely. If you can pack your things and move to a new city for a fresh start regarding dating. Lots of people are estranged from their families. It can be weird to explain to a potential partner, especially if they're familial. Ties are strong, but you certainly are not the first person who has had to take drastic steps like this. You will build a new family when the time is right. In the meantime, there are a couple of things I think you should do. If you haven't already put a security freeze on your credit accounts, if your brother used resources from the car dealership to pull this info on you, you may want to consider telling them. I don't think they would be pleased to hear they were complicit in fraud. Also, get a lawyer. You are young, but catastrophes happen, and currently your parents are next of kin by default and will inherit everything. Maybe you don't care about that, but if you would prefer to see your assets, go to someone else, get it in writing as soon as possible. Lastly, find a good counselor. You may experience some grief in the coming months, and it will be helpful to talk through it with a professional. Update 1. After the explosive dinner where my family learned about my financial situation and everything fell apart, I decided to cut ties and focus on my own life. I didn't expect to hear from them for a while, but apparently, they had other plans. A few weeks ago, my parents reached out to me. They started with small talk, trying to act as if everything was normal. But it wasn't long before they got to the real reason for their call. They wanted to talk about my older brother. My golden brother, who has always been their favorite, was apparently in dire financial straits. His lifestyle had finally caught up with him, and he was facing serious financial problems. My parents, without missing a beat, told me that it was my duty to help him out. They argued that since I had more than enough money, it was only fair that I share some of it with my brother to help him get back on his feet. They insisted that families should support each other and that I owed it to them to help my brother out of his mess. I was floored. After everything they had put me through, the years of neglect, favoritism, and belittlement, they had the audacity to ask me to bail out my brother. The same brother who had tormented me growing up, who had treated me like dirt, and who had never shown any remorse for his actions. I told my parents that I wasn't going to give my brother any money. I reminded them of how they had always treated me as the black sheep of the family, and how my success had come despite their lack of support. I explained that I had worked hard for everything I had, and I wasn't about to hand it over to someone who had never respected me. My parents didn't take it well. They accused me of being selfish and ungrateful, claiming that I was abandoning my family in their time of need. They tried to guilt-trip me, saying that it wasn't fair for me to keep all that money to myself while my brother struggled. It was clear they believed I owed them and my brother simply because we were family. Things took an even darker turn when my brother himself called me. He was furious, saying that I was ruining his life by refusing to help him. He threw all kinds of accusations at me, calling me ungrateful, spiteful, and a disappointment to the family. He even went as far as to say that I owed him for all the advice he had given me over the years, despite that advice being nothing but torment. The final straw came when my brother threatened to come after me legally. He said that he would find a way to force me to share my wealth, claiming that I had manipulated our parents into disowning him and that I was the reason for his financial troubles. It was a blatant attempt to scare me into compliance, but I stood firm. I told him that any legal action he took would be met with strong resistance, and that he had no right to my money. I made it clear that I was done with their games, and that I wouldn't be manipulated any longer. After hanging up, I decided it was time to take definitive action. I contacted my lawyer and set up legal protections for my assets. I also changed my phone number and tightened my security measures to ensure that my family couldn't continue to harass me. It was a tough decision, but one that I knew was necessary to protect myself and my future. Since then, I've felt a mixture of relief and sadness. It's hard to completely cut ties with your family, even when they've treated you poorly. But I know it's the right thing to do for my mental health and well-being. I'm focusing on my upcoming wedding with Alex and building a life that's filled with positivity and love. Thank you all for your continued support and encouragement. Your words have been a source of strength during these challenging times. I hope my story serves as a reminder that it's okay to set boundaries and protect yourself, even when it means making difficult decisions about family. Here's to new beginnings, self-respect, and the courage to stand up for what's right. Update 2. Hey everyone. Just when I thought things couldn't get any more chaotic, my family managed to take their antics to an entirely new level. This latest update is shocking and has turned my life upside down yet again. After I refused to bail out my brother and set clear boundaries with my family, they decided to retaliate in the most public and damaging way possible. They took to social media to badmouth me, airing our family drama for the entire world to see. They painted me as the greedy, ungrateful child who had abandoned their family in their time of need, all while flaunting my newfound wealth. My parents, brother, and even my sister joined in, posting lengthy rants about how I had come into a fortune and refused to share it with my struggling family. They made it sound like I was living a lavish lifestyle while they were on the brink of poverty, conveniently leaving out all the details of their past behavior and the reasons for my decisions. The posts went viral within our hometown community. People who had known us for years were shocked and intrigued by the scandal. My phone started ringing off the hook, and my inbox was flooded with messages. Old acquaintances, distant relatives, and even people I barely knew were reaching out, some offering sympathy, but most asking for financial help. The situation escalated quickly. People from our hometown were calling and messaging me, asking for loans, investments, donations, and outright handouts. They had all sorts of stories about why they needed the money and why I should help them. It was overwhelming and incredibly stressful. My private life had been turned into a public spectacle, and I felt like I had lost all control. I knew I had to take action to protect myself and my privacy. First, I posted a public statement on my social media explaining my side of the story. I briefly addressed the situation, stating that the portrayal of events by my family was not accurate and that my financial success was a result of hard work and perseverance. I made it clear that I had no obligation to share my wealth and that I would not be entertaining any further requests for financial assistance. Next, I contacted a PR firm to help manage the fallout. They advised me on how to handle the media attention and worked to mitigate the damage done to my reputation. I also hired additional security measures to protect my home and personal information from further breaches. Despite my efforts, the situation remained tense. My family continued to post defamatory comments and stories, trying to turn more people against me. They even went as far as to contact local news outlets to sell their story, hoping to gain more sympathy and public support. It was a nightmare. I've also been in close contact with my therapist, working through the emotional toll of this situation. It's been incredibly challenging, but I'm determined to come out stronger on the other side. To those who reached out with genuine concern and support, I am deeply grateful. Your kindness has been a beacon of light during these dark times. For those who sought to take advantage of my situation, I hope you understand that my decision to protect my privacy and well-being is not a reflection of my character, but a necessary step to safeguard my future. Thank you all for standing by me and offering your support. Your encouragement has been invaluable, and I hope my story continues to inspire others to stand up for themselves, even in the face of adversity. Here's to resilience, privacy, and the strength to navigate life's unexpected challenges with grace and courage. Update 3. Hey everyone, just when I thought my life was settling into a new normal, another shocking twist has turned everything upside down. This update includes some incredible highs and some dramatic lows, all of which have left me reeling. First, the good news. Over the past few months, I met an amazing woman named Emma. We connected through mutual friends, and from our first date, there was an undeniable spark. Emma is kind, intelligent, and incredibly supportive. She knows all about my tumultuous family history and has been a source of unwavering strength as I navigated the recent chaos. Our relationship blossomed quickly, and it became clear to me that Emma is the one I want to spend the rest of my life with. She brings joy and stability into my life, and I can't imagine a future without her. So, I made a decision. I bought an engagement ring and planned a romantic proposal. I'm going to ask Emma to marry me this weekend, and I couldn't be more excited. However, amidst this joy, another family scandal has erupted. Last week, I received a phone call that left me in shock. My older brother has been arrested and is facing serious charges for financial fraud. The news hit me like a ton of bricks. Despite all the animosity and the terrible things he's done, I never expected something like this to happen. From what I've gathered, my brother had been involved in some shady business dealings at the car dealership where he worked. He had been manipulating financial records, embezzling funds, and defrauding customers. His reckless lifestyle and mounting debts had driven him to desperate measures, and now he was paying the price. The news quickly spread through our hometown, adding another layer of scandal to our already troubled family reputation. My parents are devastated, and the community is buzzing with gossip. Despite everything, I couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for my brother. He had made terrible choices, but seeing him go to jail was still a hard pill to swallow. In the midst of this turmoil, I've had to stay focused on my upcoming proposal to Emma. She's been a beacon of hope and positivity, and I want to make this moment special for both of us. I've planned a beautiful evening at our favorite spot overlooking the city, where I'll ask her to be my partner for life. This journey has been a whirlwind of emotions, and I'm grateful for the support of my friends, my therapist, and especially Emma. They've helped me stay grounded and focused on what truly matters. Despite the chaos with my family, I'm determined to move forward and build a life filled with love and happiness. Thank you all for your continued support and encouragement. Your messages have been a source of strength during these challenging times. Update 4. Hey everyone, I didn't think things could get any more dramatic, but my family has once again outdone themselves. Just as I was preparing to propose to Emma, my family's desperate attempts to sabotage my happiness have reached a new shocking low. After planning the perfect proposal for Emma, I was on cloud 9. Everything was set for the big day, and I couldn't wait to ask her to be my wife. However, just days before the proposal, Emma came to me looking deeply troubled. She had received several messages and phone calls from my family, and what she told me left me furious. My parents and brother, in their never-ending quest to control and manipulate, had reached out to Emma behind my back. They told her a series of lies, painting me as a spoiled, ungrateful brat who had always taken advantage of them. They claimed that I was untrustworthy, selfish, and not the kind of person she should marry. They went as far as to say that if she married me, she would be making the biggest mistake of her life. Emma, to her credit, didn't take their words at face value. She knows me well and understands the complexities of my family dynamics. But the sheer audacity and malice of their actions shook her, and she was understandably upset. She showed me the messages and recounted the phone calls, and I could feel my blood boiling with each word. This was the final straw. My family had crossed a line, and I knew I couldn't let this go unaddressed. Their actions were not just a violation of my privacy, but a deliberate attempt to ruin my relationship and my future happiness. It was clear that they would stop at nothing to maintain their toxic hold over my life. After discussing it with Emma, I decided to take legal action. I contacted my lawyer and explained the situation. He advised me to file for a restraining order against my family to protect both myself and Emma from their harassment. I gathered all the evidence, messages, call logs, and witness statements from Emma, and prepared to take my case to the authorities. Filing the police report was a surreal experience. I never imagined that I would have to go to such lengths to protect myself from my own family, but their relentless behavior left me no choice. The police were sympathetic and took my complaint seriously, initiating the process to secure a restraining order. As the legal proceedings began, I felt a mix of emotions: anger, sadness, and relief. I was angry that my family had pushed me to this point, sad that our relationship had deteriorated so completely, but relieved that I was finally taking steps to protect myself and those I love. In the midst of all this chaos, I went ahead with the proposal. I took Emma to our favorite spot overlooking the city and, with my heart pounding, asked her to marry me. She said yes, and despite everything, it was one of the happiest moments of my life. Emma's support and love have been a beacon of hope through these dark times. The restraining order has been granted, and my family is now legally prohibited from contacting me or Emma. It's a tough pill to swallow, but I know it's the right thing to do. Protecting our peace and happiness is my top priority, and I won't allow anyone to jeopardize that. Thank you all for your unwavering support and encouragement. Your words have been a source of strength during these incredibly challenging times. Update 5. Hey everyone. It's been a whirlwind of emotions, and I have some incredible updates to share. This journey has been nothing short of a roller coaster, and the latest events have brought both joy and a final, shocking confrontation with my family. Emma and I have officially tied the knot. Our wedding was everything we dreamed of and more. We decided to keep it a small, intimate ceremony with close friends and family who have been supportive throughout our relationship. It was a day filled with love, laughter, and the promise of a beautiful future together. As the wedding day approached, I received an unexpected message from my parents. They wanted to reconcile and asked if they could attend the wedding. They claimed they had realized their mistakes and wanted to be there to support me on my special day. My initial reaction was a mix of disbelief and suspicion. Given their past behavior, I couldn't help but question their motives. After discussing it with Emma, we both agreed that while reconciliation sounded nice in theory, we couldn't ignore the years of manipulation, deceit, and recent attempts to sabotage our relationship. We needed to protect our peace and the sanctity of our wedding day. So with a heavy heart, I decided to tell my family to stay away. I met them at a neutral location to have a face-to-face conversation. My parents and brother were there, looking uncharacteristically subdued. They pleaded with me, saying that they just wanted to make things right and be part of my life again. My dad even apologized, albeit reluctantly, for the way they had treated me. But I knew better. The hurt and manipulation were still too fresh, and their sudden change of heart seemed too convenient. I told them firmly that their actions over the years had caused deep wounds, and while I appreciated their attempt at reconciliation, it was too little, too late. I couldn't allow them to be part of my wedding, as it would only bring more stress and potential drama. My brother, predictably, lost his temper. He accused me of being ungrateful and selfish, saying that I was tearing the family apart. My parents tried to guilt trip me, but I stood my ground. I told them that my decision was final and that I needed to focus on my new life with Emma. The confrontation ended with them storming out, hurling accusations and threats. It was painful, but I knew it was the right thing to do. I couldn't allow their toxic behavior to overshadow one of the most important days of my life. Despite this turmoil, our wedding was perfect. Emma and I exchanged vows in a beautiful outdoor ceremony, surrounded by those who truly cared about us. The love and support we felt were overwhelming, and it was a day we will cherish forever. After the wedding, we decided to take a break from everything and went on a honeymoon to a secluded, peaceful location. It was exactly what we needed to start our married life on a positive note. We spent our days exploring, relaxing, and making plans for our future together. Returning from the honeymoon, I feel more determined than ever to focus on my marriage and my career. I've learned that it's okay to set boundaries, even with family, and that my well-being and happiness are paramount. Thank you all for your continued support and encouragement. Your words have been a source of strength throughout this journey. I hope my story serves as a reminder that it's okay to prioritize your happiness and protect yourself from toxic influences, even if it means making tough decisions about family. Here's to new beginnings, unwavering love, and the courage to stand up for what's right. My relationship with my parents was always rough, but it was even harder watching them put my brother Michael on a pedestal all the time. He was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong in their eyes, and I was always the other kid. I remember on my 10th birthday, instead of having a party with friends, my parents dragged me to Michael's soccer game. They grabbed some last-minute cheap cake for me after spending the day cheering for him. Michael got trophies and applause, and I got a stale cake. In high school, I started working at a superstore to earn some money. My dad took every dollar I made, saying I needed to pay for my keep, while Michael got a brand new car for his 16th birthday without having to work a day. Every time I brought it up, I'd get threats of being thrown out, while Michael got praised for the smallest things. My dad is a narcissist and loves to control the lives of others. My mom, on the other hand, says and does whatever my dad asks her to. It feels like my dad has diminished her personal opinion over the years they've spent together. I was 14 years old when my dad suspected that I was dating a guy from my school, and he literally threatened that he would kill me. He did not even listen to me, that the guy was just my friend. And even if he was my boyfriend, why did he have a problem with it? My mom came to my room and told me that I was too young for things like that, and she never thought that I would grow up to be a slut. I could not believe my ears. That was the time I had decided that I was going to leave the house as soon as I turned 18. As that was more than enough, my dad used to control everything in the house, and if we had to go out or were invited to a party, it depended on him if he would allow us to go or not. This made our life a living hell, and all we thought about was leaving that place. I was in high school and I was hired at a superstore nearby and started to earn money. My dad would take every penny I had earned and would tell me that I was staying at his place. I had to contribute to the expenses. I told him several times that I would complain to the police, to which he would reply that he would then kick me out the same day and I would end up on the streets. This was the only fear that kept me in that house, and I could not stand up for myself. When I graduated high school, I had to get into a college, but my dad told me that he was not going to support my education further, as he had already spent a lot of money on my education. Just to mention that I had been going to public schools, and there were no such expenses he had to bear. I was, of course, not able to take admission to college that year, but that year turned out to be the best of my life. I got hired as a waitress in the five-star restaurant and started earning more. I told my parents that I was going to leave and would never see them again. My mom told me that they were glad to be rid of me and would love to never hear from me again. I rented a private room and moved out of my parents' house. I secured admission to college for a bachelor's in business administration, and for the first time in my life, I felt fulfilled and happy. My routine was tough as I had to attend college in the morning, and then I'd work at the restaurant and then I'd study till late for college. That was the most hectic time of my life, but it was worth it. I completed my bachelor's and started applying for jobs as soon as I secured a job in a company. I resigned from the restaurant and took the admissions for my master's. I had been a very motivated and driven person forever, but my family never supported me in anything. After I graduated master's, I already had work experience and did not face any difficulty in landing a job in a reputable company. I celebrated that with my friends and posted about them on Facebook as my siblings were still added on Facebook. The news reached my family in no time. My siblings congratulated me and told me that they were proud of me. A few days later, I received a text from my dad that he was proud of me and always believed in me. That made me very emotional, and I thought he meant that. But I was wrong. I received the parcel from my family, and I had no idea what it contained when I tore the envelope open. There was a bank statement that said that a certain amount of loan that my dad had taken from the bank needed to be repaid. I called my dad and asked him what all that was about. My dad told me that he had taken the loan to set up a store, but his idea miserably failed, and now he was not even able to repay the loan. He went on and said that as I had landed a well-paid job, it was no big deal for me to repay the loan. I'm still unable to understand how my parents could be this cold and insensitive and what made them think that I have forgotten everything they did to me. I swear I'm going to deal with them the way they dealt with me. Update 1. It all started when I decided to send my parents a parcel, but not just any old parcel. Inside, I included a letter that was pretty heavy. Basically, the letter said that I didn't even recognize them anymore because to me it felt like I had no family. I went on to say that they must have mistaken me for someone else because the family connection just wasn't there for me anymore. The day my dad got the letter, he didn't waste any time. He called me up and straight up told me he couldn't believe I was still the cheap little girl he remembered, and he thought by now I'd have grown up. That stung, but I shot back, telling him that he hadn't changed over the years either. He managed to stay the same. And since I'm his daughter, maybe I just inherited that trait from him. His response was pretty harsh. He said that since I claimed to have no family, that was exactly what I deserved. No family. I ended that conversation pretty quickly, just wished him a great day, and hung up. Later that same day, my mom called. Her tone was different, but not by much. She told me that what I did was really mean, and that she never expected something like that from me. She also threw in that, as the eldest kid in the family, I had certain responsibilities. That really hit a nerve. I couldn't help but ask her why she didn't remember those responsibilities when she and her husband treated me like a doormat all these years. The conversation shifted to money, which seems to be a recurring theme in our talks. I pointed out that the only thing that changed her attitude toward me was the money I started earning. She tried to bring up some loan they took out, implying that I should help them out with it. I shut that down real quick, telling her that the loan wasn't my problem. They didn't take it out for my education or anything that had to do with me, so they should handle it themselves. It's like over the years, our family dynamics have just devolved into this mess of expectations, misunderstandings, and financial entanglements. Throwing that letter in the mix was my way of trying to set some boundaries, to make them see that I'm not just an extension of their needs or an emergency fund they can tap into whenever things get tight for them. It was tough, sure, but sometimes you gotta draw a line. Dealing with this fallout hasn't been easy. Every call seems to dredge up old grievances and misunderstandings that go way back. It's like no matter how much you try to grow and move on, some ties just keep pulling you back to the same old arguments and hurts. But this time, I'm standing my ground. I'm trying to navigate this rocky terrain of family drama, trying to find a balance between respecting where I come from and protecting where I need to go. Update 2. It all kicked off when my brother popped over to see me. He came with some heavy news about our dad. Apparently, Dad's been really struggling with financial stress, and it's been hitting him hard. Things got even worse for him emotionally after I sent that letter saying I didn't consider them my family anymore. When my brother told me this, I couldn't just brush it off. I reminded him of the time Dad flat out told me he wouldn't help with my college expenses, which honestly wasn't asking much from him. It felt like he just abandoned his responsibility when I needed him the most. My brother tried to defend him, saying that Dad's life was already a mess, and I shouldn't make it worse by trying to get back at him for past hurts. But I shot back, telling him that Dad's life was tough because he had a knack for making everyone else's life tough too. It was like he spread his misery around. I was pretty wound up by then and suggested maybe Dad should sell his house to pay off his debts. My brother didn't take that well at all. He got super mad and asked if I wanted to see our parents homeless. I told him bluntly that if they didn't handle their finances and sell the house themselves, the bank was going to force them to do it eventually. They might as well take control of the situation now and maybe move into a rented place instead of ending up somewhere they didn't choose, like, the streets. That conversation didn't end on a high note. My brother stormed out, really angry, and threw at me that I was the worst sibling he'd ever known. Ouch, right? But after cooling down a bit, I decided to call my dad. I needed him to hear from me directly. I told him I was willing to help, but he shouldn't expect it to be with money. I wanted to help him figure things out, maybe help him see things from a different perspective or support him emotionally. Basically, I was trying to offer what I could, but I was clear that opening my wallet wasn't part of the deal. This whole mess has been tough. It's like no matter how hard you try to move forward, family ties can pull you back into the same old conflicts. Update 3. So, here's what went down. I went over to my dad's place and discreetly took a bunch of photos of the house. I was super careful to make sure no one caught on to what I was up to. After that, I put up all the info and those photos on a real estate app, basically putting the house up for sale without actually telling anyone in the family. I even listed my dad's number on the ad so potential buyers would contact him directly. I guess part of me thought I was helping, or maybe I just wanted to shake things up. A couple of days later, my phone rings. It's my dad, and man, he was not happy. He blasted me, saying what I did was the worst thing a daughter could do to her parents. He called me a disgrace to the family and even threatened to call the police on me for advertising his house without his permission. I tried to explain that I thought I was helping, but he was having none of it. He just told me to shut up and hung up the call. In the end, he never did call the police, or at least I never got any calls or notices about it. Realizing maybe things had gone too far, I pulled down the advertisement. I figured I'd made my point and didn't want to escalate things further. It's wild, though, how they still expect so much from me, considering everything. Growing up in that house wasn't easy. I went through a lot of tough times, a lot of abuse. And now, after all these years, just because I've managed to build something for myself, they think I owe it to them to bail them out of their financial messes, like repaying their loans. It feels like if I hadn't made something of myself, they probably wouldn't even bother reaching out to me. It's like they ignored me when I was struggling, but now that I'm doing well, suddenly I'm on their radar. Honestly, this whole thing makes me think about what family really means. It's supposed to be about support and love, right? But all I've felt is pressure and negativity from them. It's exhausting. And sometimes I wonder why I even try with them anymore. Update 4. So a couple of weeks rolled by, and out of the blue, my dad calls me up again. This time, he was kind of tiptoeing around this request for me to cover a few installments of their loan. He promised he'd find a way to handle the rest, and even said he'd pay me back later. But honestly, I was in the middle of moving apartments and needed every dime for that. Plus, I was really set on not getting dragged back into their financial chaos. I straight up told him I couldn't help. I also made it clear that he shouldn't keep hoping I'd change my mind. My stance was firm. His problems were his to deal with. Just like I had never gone to him asking for help, I expected the same courtesy in return. I thought that would be the end of it, but nope, it wasn't. My dad just wouldn't stop. He kept calling, trying every emotional tactic in the book to guilt me into helping. It was like a non-stop barrage of calls and messages that just kept pushing and pushing. I mean, emotional blackmail was the game, and he was playing hard. I was getting pretty fed up with all this drama and pressure. On top of that, I had this whole pile of evidence that just kept growing, like that harsh letter they sent and all those texts from both my mom and dad. Some were straight up threats, and others were just them trying to emotionally manipulate me. It was too much. So I decided enough was enough. I took all that evidence and went to court to file for a restraining order against them. It felt extreme, but honestly, it was necessary to put a stop to all the stress and pressure they were putting on me. The court saw my side of things, thanks to all the proof I had, and granted the restraining order. After that, things got a bit quieter. I received the official notification about the restraining order, but I didn't reach out to them, and they didn't try to contact me either. It was a relief, but also kind of sad when you think about it. Like, it had to come to this: getting a legal order to keep your own family from messing with your peace of mind. Reflecting on all this, it's been a wild ride. It's tough when family ties turn into this kind of turmoil. You grow up thinking family is supposed to be your rock, the ones who've got your back. But then, reality hits, and you realize that sometimes setting boundaries, even really harsh ones like a restraining order, is necessary for your own well-being. Update 5. The day after the restraining order went into effect, my brother Michael comes knocking. He's all frantic, which isn't like him at all. He tells me our dad has gone missing. Yep, vanished into thin air. No one's heard from him in days, not even his closest buddies. Here's the thing, though. Michael thinks I had something to do with it because of the whole restraining order deal. Like, seriously? He started accusing me of making our dad so stressed that he might have done something drastic. I tried to calm him down, told him that's not how any of this works, but he was having none of it. As we're arguing, my phone buzzes. It's a text from a number I don't recognize. I open it, and bam. It's a photo of my dad. He's sitting in some rundown-looking bar, looking pretty worse for wear, with a message that just says, "Help him." No explanation, no location, nothing. Just this cryptic message and a photo. I showed Michael, and his face went white. We decided to call the police and report it, but they told us we needed more to go on before they could do anything major. Frustrated, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I hit up some of Dad's old haunts, asking around if anyone's seen him recently. It turns out he's been spotted at various spots across the city, always looking a bit off, like he's on the run or something. Now, I'm torn. Part of me wants to wash my hands of the whole thing because of all the drama and pain he's caused. But another part, the daughter part, can't just sit back knowing my dad might be in real trouble. Just when I think I'm out of surprises, I get another call, this time from an old family friend. He tells me that my dad was involved in some shady business deals and might be hiding from some pretty dangerous people. Great, just what I needed, right? Like a plot out of some crime drama. Michael and I are trying to piece together the clues and track him down. It's weird teaming up with my brother like this, especially after everything that's gone down. But I guess in times of crisis, you really see who's willing to put aside past differences for the greater good. This whole situation is a mess, and honestly, it's pulling me back into family drama I thought I was done with, but I can't just ignore it. So here I am, stuck in the middle of a mystery, trying to figure out if I'm more worried about my dad's safety or the tangled web of lies and secrets that seems to be unraveling around us. Update 6. After getting that cryptic message about my dad being in some seedy bar, Michael and I have been on a non-stop mission trying to track him down. It feels like we've suddenly been thrust into some detective novel, but trust me, there's nothing glamorous about it. We spent the next few days following up on every lead we got. We visited every dive bar and rundown joint where Dad might have been spotted. It's surreal, really, seeing parts of the city I never knew existed, talking to people who looked like they stepped out of a film noir. One night, just as we were about to call it quits, we get a break. A bartender at this shabby place downtown remembers seeing my dad. Says he was with some sketchy-looking characters, talking in hushed tones, looking nervous. The bartender even overheard something about a meeting at an old warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Michael and I decide to check it out. We drive there. The place is practically falling apart, graffiti all over, broken windows. It's the kind of place you'd never go unless you absolutely had to. We sneak in, trying to stay as quiet as possible. And there, in the dim light, we see a group of men arguing. And yep, Dad's right there in the middle of it. Turns out, the old man had gotten himself mixed up in some illegal gambling ring. He'd been trying to make some quick cash to cover his debts, but ended up way over his head. The guys he was dealing with weren't the type to take, "I'll pay you next week" for an answer. They were furious, talking about making an example out of him. Michael and I were about to step in, but before we could, the police raided the place. Someone must have tipped them off. It was chaos, shouting, running. We managed to pull Dad out of there just as the cops started cuffing everyone. It was close, way too close. After the raid, we had a long talk with Dad. He was shaken up, realizing how close he'd come to something really bad. He kept saying he was sorry, that he never meant for things to get this out of hand. It was the first time I'd seen him vulnerable like that in, well, ever. Michael and I decided to help Dad get his life sorted. We helped him set up a payment plan for his debts, got him into some counseling. It's weird, but going through this crisis together has started to mend some of the fractures in our family. Not all, but some. As for me, I've been doing a lot of thinking. This whole ordeal has forced me to reassess what family means to me. It's messy and complicated, and sometimes it feels like you're just bound by shared history and nothing else. But then there are moments, like pulling your dad out of a potential disaster, that make you realize there's also this deep, almost primal bond. I'm not saying everything's perfect now, far from it. There are still plenty of issues we need to work through, but I'm starting to see that maybe, just maybe, there's a way to navigate this complex web of relationships without losing myself in the process. So yeah, that's where we're at, navigating this messy, unpredictable journey of family drama, old wounds, and tentative reconciliations. It's not the kind of adventure I would have chosen, but it's ours. And somehow, we're making it through, one crazy chapter at a time. Update 7. A couple of weeks after the whole warehouse incident, I was at work when I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Hesitant, I answered, and on the other end was someone claiming to be a private investigator. My first thought was, what now? Turns out this PI was hired by someone who claimed to be a concerned party interested in my father's well-being. The plot thickens, right? This PI starts telling me that there are some serious allegations against my father, not just the gambling stuff, but something deeper, more sinister. According to him, my dad was supposedly involved in some financial fraud schemes that were much bigger than anything we'd imagined. I'm talking big money, illegal deals, the works. And now, these shady characters weren't just random gamblers, but part of a network my dad had been dealing with for years. Honestly, my head was spinning. I agreed to meet with the PI to get more information because if this was true, then it wasn't just about family drama anymore. It was about legal consequences that could drag all of us down with him. Meeting the PI was like stepping into a detective movie. He laid out documents, photos, recordings, evidence that my dad had been living a double life we knew nothing about. It was overwhelming. How much could you not know about someone you've called dad your entire life? I took all this info to Michael, and we confronted Dad. It was probably the hardest conversation we've ever had. At first, he denied everything, but as we laid out all the evidence, he broke down. He confessed that he started with small bets and minor fraud to make ends meet, but it spiraled out of control. He was in deeper than he ever intended, owing money to people who you definitely don't want to owe money to. The revelation shook our family to its core. We had to make some tough decisions. Michael and I discussed it and decided that, despite everything, we had to turn him in. It was the only way to possibly mitigate the damage and protect the rest of the family. We went to the authorities and handed over all the evidence the PI had given us. The days following were a blur. Police, lawyers, more dirty secrets spilling out. It was like watching our family legacy crumble in real time. But amidst all this chaos, there was this strange relief. Secrets are a heavy burden, and revealing them, even like this, felt like setting down a weight we'd been carrying without even knowing it. Dad was arrested, and the case quickly started to build. It's heartbreaking and terrifying to see your parent in such a situation, but there was also a sense of justice, of doing the right thing for everyone's sake. Through this ordeal, Michael and I have somehow grown closer. We've been through the ringer, seen the darkest parts of what family can mean, but we've also seen how it can pull you through the toughest times. We're not sure what the future holds for Dad or for us, but we're handling it together. This whole thinga has been a lesson in many things: trust, betrayal, and redemption. It's taught me that family isn't just about blood or shared history. It's about the choices you make, the secrets you keep or reveal, and the lengths you'll go to protect or save each other. Update 8. Things took a tragic turn last week. Just when we thought we were beginning to get a handle on the chaos Dad had left in his wake with his legal troubles, we received a call late at night that none of us were prepared for. Dad had been in a car accident. He was driving alone, late at night, and he'd been drinking. The police said it was a single-car accident. No other vehicles involved. He didn't survive. The news hit like a punch to the gut. Despite all the anger and the mess he'd caused, he was still our dad. The reality that we'd never have a chance to confront him, to maybe reconcile or at least find some closure, was gone in an instant. The days following were a blur. Dealing with the police, the coroner, and then the arrangements for a funeral, everything felt surreal. Michael and I had to pull together, not just for ourselves, but for Mom, too. She was devastated, a complex mix of grief and unresolved anger swirling together. It was tough seeing her like this, all of us navigating through this new grief. At the funeral, seeing the faces of family and a few of Dad's close friends, I realized how complex his life had been, how many different versions of him people carried with them. It made me think about the man he was and the choices he made, the good mixed with the bad. After the funeral, we gathered at Mom's house, going through old photo albums, reminiscing about better times before Dad's problems took over. It was healing in a way, but also opened up old wounds. We talked a lot about forgiveness, about memories, and about how we all had to pick up the pieces and figure out how to move forward. Now we're dealing with the aftermath, not just the emotional fallout, but also the practical aspects of his estate, his debts, and all the legal complexities that didn't just disappear because he had. It's a lot to handle, but Michael and I are tackling it together, supporting Mom as best we can. This chapter of our lives has closed in a way we never anticipated, forcing us to confront our feelings about Dad and each other. It's a process, one that will take time and which won't be easy. But we're learning, maybe the hard way, what it means to be a family, to stick together through the toughest times, and to find strength in each other. Update 9. It's been a few months since Dad's passing, and the dust is finally starting to settle. The initial shock has faded, but the echoes of his sudden departure linger, influencing our days in ways we're just beginning to understand. The process of untangling his estate has been complicated, revealing debts we didn't know about and legal entanglements that have tested our patience and resilience. Michael and I have been working closely, closer than we ever have, to manage these challenges. We've had to learn a lot quickly about legal processes, about each other's strengths and weaknesses, and about how to support Mom through this. She's been stronger than either of us expected, finding a kind of quiet strength that has kept us all grounded. Amid the practicalities, There have also been moments of reflection and unexpected healing. We found letters Dad wrote but never sent, apologies drafted in his shaky handwriting, plans for a future he hoped to rebuild. It's heartbreaking and comforting all at once, seeing these glimpses of remorse, of hope, from a man we thought we had figured out. We held a small memorial on what would have been his birthday, just close family and a few of Dad's oldest friends. It was somber but also filled with stories, laughter, and tears. We celebrated the good memories, acknowledged the bad, and shared our hopes for healing. It wasn't just about remembering Dad, but about reconnecting with each other, reaffirming the bonds that his turmoil had tested but not broken. Looking forward, there's a lot to be done. The legal matters will likely drag on for a while longer, but we're prepared for that now. What's more important, and what we've come to realize, is how we come together as a family. Our relationships have deepened, becoming more honest and open. Michael, Mom, and I have found new ways to support each other, to build on the legacy of the good parts of Dad's life, not just the shadow of his mistakes. This final update isn't just a conclusion to a tumultuous chapter, it's a beginning too. A start to a new phase where we, as a family, learn from the past, appreciate the present, and look to the future with a cautious but real optimism. Thank you to everyone who's followed this journey, shared advice, or just read along. Your support has been invaluable. As we close this chapter, we take the lessons, the love, and even the pain as reminders of what we've overcome and what we aspire to become. Here's to moving forward, together,